Well, Dr. Nachiketa Sinha is here with us today. He was here last week, and we've got him back already to talk about his second chapter in the book Empowered and Strong, Navigating Safely Through the Storms of Life. And that second chapter is called Coffee Mug Spills. And good afternoon. How are you doing, by the way?
Doing really well, Toby. Thank you so much for having me back. And, I really enjoyed it last time. So thank you for this.
Yeah, it feels like only a few minutes ago that you were here last time.
It does.
Yeah.
The miracle of science.
So this chapter, it's quite a good analogy because it's about how we go through our lives thinking that we need a bigger coffee cup, but actually we're not really making good use of the one we've already got. Right.
I mean, the idea is that, as human beings, right, we're always looking at, how do I better my life? How do I get, more happiness, less stress, money, whatever it is that we're worried about. And what we notice, though, is many times is that something as easy as getting coffee starts spilling over, right? And that itself is bothering, bothers one to the extent where you now have to find a solution. What do you do? What is wrong in this picture here? Do I throw the mug away? Is the machine that's gone bad, and so on and so forth? But that analogy then applies to life, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you think it applies to life?
So the way I was trying to explain the concept there was that I sort of used coffee. Unfortunately, I love coffee, so the coffee gods should not curse me on that. But I use coffee as a sort of an analogy to kind of talk about stress, right? And the mug, of course, was us as human beings, as an individual. So the idea is that there's only so much stress we can handle, right? So if the mug is already full, then it doesn't matter whether you add one drop of coffee or one drop of water even to a mug full of coffee, it's going to spill over. The same thing that happens to our lives when we are stressed out and our mug is circled full. So now one small thing that happens, say, at work, and I completely feel shattered about it, and then I ask myself, oh my God, why am I so upset by this? Well, it's not that particular thing that was upsetting to me. It's just that my mug was already full. So a small drop was enough to completely spill the whole thing over. So now that's where the fun bit is that how do I look at it from a point of how will I handle that full mug of coffee or full mug of stress?
Yeah, I think it's quite a common analogy, maybe not the exact same one, but when we say we've got a lot on our plate is essentially the same thing.
Exactly. And in my case, it's actually, it actually happened because the thing was always overflowing in my thought. Luckily, the reason for me wasn't that there was already coffee in the mug, but the reason was that there's something wrong with the machine, I guess. But yes, it is a common analogy. So using that, right, the idea being that anybody who's reading it should be able to connect.
Yeah.
Because if I don't connect to it, then how am I going to, be able to sort of find a solution for myself, right? So that's why the common analogy.
Yeah. So how do we fit the coffee in the mug in our lives? Do we go for less coffee or do we put holes in the bottom?
You definitely read the book, I can tell you that. So what you do is you kind of look at the whole, take a step back a bit and look at the whole thing as a one complete problem, so to speak. So in order to make sure the mug doesn't spill, there are different things that needs to be done. Number one, what one can do is stop the coffee from coming in. Number two, what one can do is make sure there's not coffee in it already. And number three, of course, is to make sure that the bottom is also there, or it's not a bottomless mug, so to speak. So in life also, right, we can control stress, which is the coffee coming in the mug. But the problem is that it's not always possible to control stress. Well, everything we do has a small amount of stress, and we handle it because it's not spilling over, right? That's the whole idea. So how do we control the stress coming into our lives? And once it's come to our life, how do we empty the mug, which is how do I take care of the stress? And, and different things can be used, like, doing things you like to do, exercise, and so on and so forth. And then even after the mug is, let's say there's already coffee in the mug and it's full, how do we find a way that if there is excess coffee in the mug, should we make holes at the bottom to make sure that if for some reason this is one of those kind of mugs this is this kind of coffee that doesn't stop coming, and that's what happens when we become ill, right, with depression and so on, where the stress is just so intense that now I have become unwell. So in that case, the analogy I used was that getting help with regards to medication and so on, which is like making a hole in the bottom where the stress doesn't affect you as much as it would otherwise.
And it's hard, though, to stop the coffee coming in because nobody goes out of their way looking for stress. Yeah. That would be weird.
Yeah. Yes. And that's the thing, Toby, though, isn't it? Because, I mean, we have problems and all kinds of things, right? I mean, and some problems aren't even problems. Some are good problems. For example, I'm looking forward to this conversation, right? So this is supposed to be a good thing, and I'm enjoying it like I did last time. But guess what? It was stressful. Why? Because I want to make sure the mic is working.
Yeah.
So you can see how stress isn't always a sign of something bad. Good stuff also leads to, now, for example, if my mug was already full, the idea that the mic isn't working would have sort of tripped over the whole thing, right? So talking to you right now, you'd say, "Hey, man, are you all right? Why are you so upset?" And so allowing you to want to understand that, it is a part of life. So learning how to control it becomes more important.
Yes, absolutely. And there you go. That was the taster of coffee mug spells from Chapter 2 of Dr. Nachiketa Sinha's new book, Empowered and Strong, Navigating Through the Storms of Life. So many thanks for joining us here on week 2, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.